points that from our last meeting that we had questions regarding that we were going to take votes on today, and that was basically some additional personnel, some capital equipment in the food service, and then maybe taking a look at some revenue projection revisions. I do hope to keep it fairly short today, relatively short, maybe it should be compared to our last meetings, because my complications are ongoing, so I need to get home to my son, and also I need to fix the motor in my windshield wipers for my car, since they're not working either. So
that's a big problem.
It slowed me down driving here today, because I had to stop a couple times to wipe the stuff off my car. So, I do know that also Commissioner Kinney did call me to make sure that we were meeting, and she is planning on arriving at some point herself. All right.
What sort of numbers are you working with? We're all working off of different sets.
Well, there is a good point, Representative Nelson. I thought that today we were going to be given one of these sheets with all the updated numbers from the office. Have you received the updated numbers with the presumed finalized numbers?
For the year.
For the year, for
some departments, I know in the subcommittee in the Sheriff's Department, we had all the numbers.
Okay. All right, well that's, I guess for our purposes today, it probably is not of, the vast importance, because we were pretty sure that the numbers that we worked from last time were good expense-wise, but there was some question revenue-wise. That was still. Have you received any word about the revenues?
I have not.
I talked to Kathy about the proportional share money, and she didn't know of any way to predict what that will be. That's something that essentially we're given by the state, but we're not really giving any forewarning on what it's definitely going to be. So it is an unknown that has some significant variance from year to year.
Okay. But as far as the predictable revenues, there's no reason to believe we're having a problem, or there's no reason to believe they're since you gave her the numbers, essentially the book, at this juncture, those numbers are pretty good. Yes. We don't have to worry too much about those, and she's only using numbers that you give her.
Correct.
Okay. And then the expenses were a little in question, but we were only looking at $5,000 maybe in question, where we were maybe a little mushy on exactly if it would get booked in which year. So I don't think that's gonna get us. So I'm just trying to make sure I've got the right set of numbers in front of me. Yeah, there we go. All right, so, well, Representative McConkey, I know, is interested in discussing some of the capital expenditures, and so I think we should open the discussion on that. To start out with, we have this new equipment sheet here that I'm looking at, but it breaks down in each department what they're interested in having. Under dietary, we have a $5,500 ask put in for that. $4,000, which is basically dollars of it, which is basically replacement of current, we'll call it small wares, things that do wear out at a fairly rapid rate, you know, a few years, I guess you would consider that they last. And then a mixer for $600 and a panini grill for $900. Does anyone have any comments or questions regarding those things? Representative,
Where are you
I'm sorry,
looking at this
Commissioner
green
Babson.
sheet? Are you looking at this green sheet?
I'm looking
Yes,
at,
yours is green for whatever.
oh, I'm sorry, yeah, yours may be green,
I don't know why.
but it's
Yeah.
just,
Okay.
just kind of itemizes the, everything. Oh, you know, and I guess I apologize, I skipped over the administration file server upgrade, so we'll go back to that. I guess we haven't ever entertained that earlier, and I think that's because, for some reason, I thought that was in the administration part of the budget. So, but go ahead on the dietary. That was just your question to make sure we're on the same
Yes,
sheet.
you're on 2015 new equipment. The next line is administration.
Yeah, well, we are looking at dietary first, which is line 513097. Representative McConkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Under Panini Grill, we had a discussion last time about trying to break out what our expenses, if there were expenses contributed against the $35,000 profit shown as cafe. And I know that you were going to start looking into that and getting a better feel if personnel should be assigned to that. But I have an issue with Panini Grill for $900. I'd recommend that it be pulled out of this proposal. Don't see that it's necessary for the day-to-day operation of serving our good residents, and wondering if anyone else has the same feeling as I.
Okay.
And if I could follow up on the pots and pans, the $4,000, is that because we brought over all the old pots and pans from the other facility and now those are to be retired, or is that a mixture of old and new?
I think it is, well, Rob is here. He can, I guess, answer that, or repeat the answer to that. But my recollection is that it was a blend. Some of the, I can't think of the actual jargon that's used for the warming part. You know, since now we're transporting from a centralized dietary to the neighborhoods, they purchased equipment that would, you know, keep them warm on a plate, and that those items do tend to break down in the dishwasher, you know, quicker than, you know, your basic china, because they're kind of, they do have a bit of porousness to them. So I think it was a blend, but I'm sure that you know, Rob can maybe help us a little better breakdown of that $4,000, how much of that replacement is for things that were already purchased out of the bond, so to speak, versus what we had brought over in it from the other building and is now worn out.
I categorize that as small wares replacement. So it's the everyday, it is the china or maybe coffee mugs, stainless steel flatware, glassware that breaks. Any of the plasticware, we use a lot of it in production and transport. And anything that cracks, and it will stress crack, etc. after, you know, a certain amount of time, it has to be replaced. If it's deemed either cracked, it's unusable. If it scratches, it's not cleanable, so that has to be replaced as well.
Okay, I think what Representative McCarthy, or at least maybe this is my question, it might not be his, was that how much of this $4,000 would you gauge is replacement of items that were brought over from the old building and now we're replacing them, versus how much were purchased new for this building and now are being replaced?
Well, we started out with a new inventory of the meal delivery system itself, so the heated bases, the domes, etc. Those are not being replaced. It's the china and the small wares that are being replaced. So not a lot of what was purchased in this building, but a lot that came over or is just replaced as a cost of doing business.
Okay, Representative McConkey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And perhaps it's been there in the past, and I just haven't seen it. Do you see that that's going to be a reoccurring item in that neighborhood of cost from year to year?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Was it, if I could follow up, and has that been the case in past years also?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, I'm satisfied.
And the power mixer, is that one of the, the handheld ones? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
'Cause- okay. That seemed like a great price for the power mixer. I certainly wouldn't sell you mine for that. Okay, so, I mean, I would say that, as far as the dietary is concerned, I think Representative McConkey would like to move that we remove the $900 from the panini grill from there.
Second.
And so we can open that up for discussion. Does anyone have any discussion?
Does Rob have any comment regarding the grill?
Oh, sure.
You have a comment regarding the grill?
Well, the panini grill is something that's actually, I mean, it's an investment in income for the cafe. What I'm using right now is a home style, almost, like a George Foreman grill, and we're making panini sandwiches and selling them several times a week. But it's slow and it's not designed for commercial use. So what I wanted to do is upgrade that to a 220 volt model that will last us. It's almost the same theory as getting, commercial gas grill versus something that you design for wider use. So, I mean, it's going to generate income as well. And I'm trying to offset my expenses by increasing the sales in the cafe. Every sale to an employee of the nursing home that I make there is also eliminating a free meal. So this is a method to the madness there.
Okay. And, but as you did mention before, the panini grill isn't, and I think Representative McConkey was alluding to this, was that the panini grill isn't really used for service for dietary for the residents.
Well, it is also, I mean, the residents, I have a restaurant style menu that we publish for the residents as well. So those residents that are looking for, grilled cheese panini, they have that available to them as well. And
Okay.
anything that we sell in the cafe is also available at no charge to residents.
Okay. Representative McConkey.
Thank you. Is there a added benefit, a cost to someone ordering a panini grilled cheese sandwich? Is there a $1 extra charge or something so that this panini grill will be paid?
Generally, they're $3 to $4 for a panini, and a free meal. The value of a free meal is probably about $2.25. So you're not spending free meal, and we are picking up revenue to offset cost in general. And we get orders from that, by the way, from DOC, as well as a lot of the correctional officers who order sandwiches and paninis, as well as the board next door, Sheriff's Department. So our sales have been steadily increasing.
Okay. Representative Butler.
Thank you. I appreciate your rationale for putting it on the new equipment list, but I just think as we try to maximize the budget process so that we can save as much as we can, that's a place where we can cut without a significant impact, I think, on your income also. I appreciate your rationale, and I think we should see it again next year. See where we go with the cafe income and just take a look at it again.
Representative Nelson?
Thank you. If you had to prioritize things, would you put this ahead of some of the other expenses, like cut out some of the expendable silverware and dishes? Would you say this would replace the $900 for this? You could take it out of somewhere else?
I don't see that, because the replacements are a necessity for, code to operate with the sanitary guidelines, etc. So it is, it's an expense to create revenue.
Okay. Well, there's, I guess what this conversation brings to light to me is that, as you had mentioned, you're basically in competition with a free meal. And I've also seen questions, or at least some head talking a little bit on regard to the pricing of the things in the cafe, because they are very competitive, without question. So I guess to me that kind of brings to light the idea of perhaps offering a credit to people who otherwise would get a free meal. Maybe not as much as this $2.25 that you mentioned, but the idea of giving, say, $1, whatever half that is, $1 credit when they came in and bought a meal, and then elevate your entire pricing structure to be a little more profitable. Since, as you mentioned, your sandwiches, or at least from what I've seen, the price structure is extremely competitive within the cafe, which is good for those who, and I understand, as you mentioned, you're dealing with competing, you're trying to get someone to buy something who otherwise would get a free meal. So perhaps the idea of offering a credit to those who would otherwise be entitled to a free meal, but then elevate the entire pricing structure, then you may actually incur more revenue and just as more profitability, and probably just as much customer count, because at least from what I've seen, and it seems extremely competitive. But I just wanted to throw that out there for the commissioners and for everyone to think about as far as a policy, so you don't have that rub of, well, I'm trying to get people to buy it, but I have to keep it so low that the people who wouldn't necessarily have to buy it are just trying to get a blend. That might be something that would be more effective in the long run. I think that, at least from my point of view, I think the Panini Grill is probably in a spot where, buying them as you need them for $60, $70 a piece, and just burning through them until the panini fad might go the way of, I don't know, the hula hoop, maybe more wise at this juncture, unless it becomes something where we really are using it to actually mass feed, the entire place. So anyway, any more? We had heard from everybody there. So, Commissioner Babson?
Any more on the new equipment or on the diet?
Just on the Panini Grill. The motion on the floor, around the table, is to remove the Panini Grill from the request list. All right, well, seeing no further questions, we can move the questions. So all those in favor of removing the Panini Grill from the list, the $900 Panini Grill from the list, say aye. Aye.
No.
So that's 3 for removing it, 1 opposed. Okay, so let's move up to the file server update. And I guess I I honestly might have jumped over that before, so I need a little more information on what's going on there. Is this something that's countywide, that's being distributed, or is this just within the nursing home facility?
Just here. As the initial plan was to first convert the administrative building, and that's been done, so this is the second tier of a multi-year phase.
Okay. And so this is a one-time cost, or there'll be maintenance cost after this?
For the upgrade, it's a one-time upgrade, to upgrade our server.
Okay. I mean, in the foreseeable future, I'm sure we'll be upgrading it again someday in the future. But I mean, this is not a yearly cost for maintaining the upgrade. It's an upgrade, and whatever maintenance we have to do is already included in the contracts part of the.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's an integrated system? Is it integrated with the administration and with other functions around the campus?
That's done by virtual private networks, VPN. So they're actually standalone systems, which is actually I think it's a healthy redundancy, so that if our system went down, it doesn't take down the administration building, and yet we can, with permissions, interact with each other. But it has to be permissions that are granted and given. But they are freestanding.
Sorry, I realized my phone was in my pocket and you turned my ringer off. Okay. All right. Any motions or questions on that? I think that's pretty straightforward. Unfortunately, I think that one is going to sit right where it is.
Lest anybody think that we're being aggressive with the file server conversion, much of the software goes back to 2003. So we're talking, and many people would say that at the 7-year point is turnover. We're about 3 years beyond optimum update. So we're not rushing into this, but you know, our system is working, but this will bring it up to where it should be.
All right. Okay, well, let's move on down to the nursing portion of the new equipment. Representative Butler?
Thank you. Could you or would you just maybe go through the list? Do we have wheelchair and chair scales?
We do. They were brought over from the other building. One has been repaired now 10 times in the last 2 months. So these are replacements of stuff that was brought over from the new building. We're not purchasing.
Great, thank you. And in terms of the ceiling lifts, which are really my basic question, I think we've had some discussion about those, and I understand that eventually it would be great to have them throughout every room. But could we do without one? Could we do 4 instead of 5? What is the percentage of people that you really use them with on each floor?
I can't give you the percentage, but we only have incorporated those that were really required. We are getting refurbished ones, which are a lot cheaper than the newer ones, by almost $1,000. Just today, we've had 2 more residents that can no longer stand on their feet, so that we're desperate. We have no ceiling lifts available. They are only being used on those individuals who no longer have the legs under them. So it's either nursing staff physically picking up these people and workers' comp on claim of a back versus the ceiling lifts. We didn't put in for any extra. We had figured those were coming in. We've taken the one out of physical therapy now. It's been gone for 6 months because we were using it on a resident, and we have our 2 portable manual lifts also being used.
So those are harder lifts, but you can move those around.
So when we did the 5, that was basically people that we were seeing a decline in, that we knew within a year's time would probably need them. And unfortunately, as of this weekend, 2 people are really in need of them now. So
I remember the days when we would move those Hoyer lifts around.
and we still are.
We're presently at 30%. Ideally, we'd like to be have capability for at least 50%, and in the future, that might not even be adequate.
Right.
Representative McConkey.
The 5 that are listed here would bring you to what percentage of your ideal?
That would bring us to about 32%, just over 30.
If I could, would there be any savings economy for us if we were to look at the number that would take us to that number, that would get us our lift back in physical therapy, which seems to be a place that we can make more money if we had a lift? And could we then, for the commissioners, if there was a savings, I'm hearing we could save up to $1,000 on a refurbished or whatever, then that might possibly be a consideration for some of the monies that are still sitting there outstanding, the $1 million. If these are items that are going to turn around, we're going to fill the need for our 5 residents now, we're going to get it back there, we're going to have the 2 portable, but if next year we're in the same position again, I think it might merit looking at it right now.
Going up to 50%, you mean? There are lots of calls on that money.
Yeah, well, there are lots of calls on that money, I suppose. So I guess the crux of the question is there any economy of scale? Are these priced at X number for so much, or if we went up to the 50%, which would be about another, what, 20 chairs?
Yeah, about another 20.
Yeah.
I have to believe there's at least 10% savings in quantities of 10 or more. I think we're in a position of negotiating at that point. 10% would not be unreasonable, it might even be on the low side.
But you're looking at another $40,000.
If it's, my thought is, if it's a need, and what I'm hearing is it's becoming more and more constant need, then perhaps we should address it now while there's still monies to do that, as opposed to finding in the budget, $11,000 every year for that item.
Becky had something to say over here, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The other thing is as we think right now, we've been buying refurbished because they're guaranteed as new. If we have to keep buying every year, the price could go up because those refurbished may no longer be available to us. We just have to hit a pocket when one hospital transferred out on their list. So if I had my good issue right, if we could go to the 50% this time, that would probably be a savings if we, instead of buying every year, the price is going to go up.
So the current price is $2,200 a piece.
Against a list price of just under $5,000 for new.
Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there any money in any of these accounts that people have donated money for the home that 1 or 2 could be purchased? I thought last time somebody mentioned was
The Friends Group.
Friends Group.
My understanding is there is no money.
Is there any follow-up? Any chance of getting organizations to sponsor them? Have you tried that? The Lions Club or different organizations that might say, hey, I'm willing to sponsor one. I think there's a lot of organizations that might be willing to do one. Knights of Columbus, all different, Kiwanis, the Masons, different groups.
Howie, you're planning to go around to the different organizations, right? The
Yeah.
Lions and Rotary and so forth.
We're looking for donations for a flagpole that the resident council has recommended. That has a little bit more glitz and glamour. People like contributing typically to single things rather than one of 103 things. Not that it's impossible, but it's a tougher sell for an ambiguous list than it is for say a flagpole out front, even though the costs are relatively the same.
Question?
Follow-up?
Have you considered using an Eagle Scout as one of their projects? Somebody trying to become an Eagle Scout to take that on as a project?
Eagle Scout projects typically have to go beyond just the fundraising part and into an implementation part of actual doing and coordinating teams. So the fundraising in it for an Eagle Scout project has to support the more broader project. It can't be the project itself.
The Eagle project is going to be tied in with the trail, the wellness trail. There's a couple of potential Eagle Scouts that are going to be working on a bridge, for example. The other thing is I'm going to the Ossipee Rotary Club tonight, and I'm going to see if they will sponsor that whole flagpole at tune of $1,500 or so.
That'd be wonderful.
We'll see what happens. And there's other projects that I'll be talking with them about to get some donations. I know we have got donations from North Conway and Wolfboro regarding the purchase of the van that we have. So there has been contributions made from those clubs.
Mr. Chair?
Actually, Representative McConkey, I think, was.
I just, thank you. I think it would, I would think it would be a good idea to send the Friends of the Nursing Home a letter and show them the list of needs that are on here. I think Representative Nelson's idea is a good one. This is a group that's keyed in on making improvements to this facility, and I think we should reach out to them first. You know, with the lift, the paninis, the tables, and all the things on this list, and see if there's anything that's in their power to take care of.
Representative Butler, sorry.
Thank you. I thought that a few weeks ago you had said that the flagpole was going to be paid for by one of the funds, and I still don't understand the... No? I still don't understand the funds that we've heard about, but that Representative McConkey says there's no money in, or maybe not accessible.
I think
what are those for?
The Bean Fund, I think, has been used up.
Okay.
The Doobie Fund, I think there's still some money in that.
And is it targeted for a particular purpose?
No, other than to benefit all the residents.
So if there is some money there, and if it might be useful, you know, that would be something to consider at least, unless it's just for recreational therapy or just for, you know, that kind of enrichment for the residents.
Representative Nelson.
Do you know how many residents from different towns there might be?
From different towns in the county?
Wakefield that are in this facility?
I think we have that. Or at least we can put it together. I think somebody asked for that before.
I'll get an origin, it's called an origin analysis, and I'm sure we have that information. I haven't seen it, but that we can get a breakdown of where people came to us from.
I think there's more from the southern part of the county than the northern part.
Commissioner Babson.
Thank you. Representative Paula, I have a problem with every time going to the Doobie Fund or what used to be the Bean Fund for things really the taxpayer ought to be paying for. Those funds were like for flagpole, for a bench out front, extra flower beds, extra things.
That's what I asked.
You'd never get by the lifts. But the lifts are certainly the responsibility of the county, and I think that's where we ought to be looking at, so the funding, not from some of these funds that may be needed for extras. One of the Doobie Fund paid part of the bus a while back, along with the road. And that's what those funds were established for. And other stuff that should be paid for, I believe, from the taxpayer.
Representative Butler.
Thank you. Is there $12 gazillion in the Doobie Fund, or is there a small amount of money that is to be used for the enrichment of the...
Small amount of money, but I don't know exactly what it is. I can get that for you.
Okay. I can understand your perspective. I just wanted to know what it was for.
I would echo Commissioner Babson's sentiments that these lifts, compared to just about anything else on the list, are kind of the basic working tools of not only helping residents, but saving staff members' backs, which actually has a corresponding workers' comp exposure and cost. So that they come very close to being a necessity. It can be worked around with portable Hoyer lifts, but that ends up creating both problem and in these days a real risk factor. So there is a need now. Whether or not buying more and getting it done out of capital funds is a good option, or for funds, or done proportionally over the years as we're doing, as we planned out of operating funds, it would seem to be justified.
Okay. I just want to interject here that what we are focusing on here is this budget for these items. I think that we have, or at least from where I sit, there's a definite disconnect about what our friends groups are doing in regard to helping improve the nursing home versus what the county taxpayer is doing to the upkeep of the nursing home. And I believe that, this is something that perhaps is a meeting that we should have in the very, very near future with those folks about what's going on, what is the structure of what we have for contributions, what this friends group is doing and what their objectives are, and does the actual commissioners need to have more of a handle on, I should say handle, but more of an authority of obtaining contributions. What we don't see here, at least you don't have to be an expert, when you walk in, you don't see anything here that is maybe I haven't walked in enough, but I've walked around a few times and I haven't seen anything where this bench is dedicated, this picture was purchased by, those sorts of things, those highly exposable, everybody walks into the lobby, they see that, they see the big screen TV in that room. This big screen TV was purchased from donations given by whomever. That sort of idea. That's something that I don't see happening around here that you would kind of expect to see. But that was what the delegation envisioned when we were building, that we would see more of that involved. And we don't see that. So I think there's a disconnect there but I think that may be a meeting for another day, as opposed to, can we get these folks to buy this and so therefore we can take it out of the budget. I don't think that's going to get accomplished today or by March 31st, myself. So, at any rate, that's, I'm not sure if Representative McConkey, I'm sorry, everyone does that, so I guess I might as well join the bandwagon. At least I realize I do it. That's right. Representative McConkey had a motion.
A lot alike.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that. They're both unique in their own way.
Well, I would take that comment as an honor.
Yeah. It's true. You could take Representative McCarthy's valor and probably spread it among every person in this room and still have plenty left over.
I want to comment on your observation of not seeing anything donated at the old nursing home. That garden out there was completely donated to a tune of over $25,000. That was donated, and there were signs or plaques out there everywhere.
Right. And I'm not discounting that. That's not the issue. The issue is once we get here, that sort of thing we're not seeing, and so we feel there might be a disconnect with what we thought was going on, or what might the commissioners be providing the impetus for versus the Friends. The Friends group, if that's what they're doing and they have certain missions, and that's fine, but there's also certain missions within the county that we may have the ability to be able to get certain things that are high exposure items that present a high value to the residents, And I just bring up the big screen TV because that's something that everyone would come to use, and you would have, I would imagine, some sort of social movie night, and you know, so everyone would appreciate it. It's a high exposure item. They get their picture in the paper, that sort of thing. You know, those sorts of projects that we could also do that would not be in conflict with what that Friends group is doing.
To follow up on that, they've also donated either $2,000 or $3,000 towards the wellness trail that we have a check for.
Artwork as well, I thought artwork as well came through the Friends.
I'm not sure.
Some of it, I think, did.
So at any rate, I think there's, so I think there's a disconnect. We have questions around the table about what they're doing, and then versus what we might be doing through, you know, the executive branch of the county.
I think we could tell them or show what the needs are, but it's up to them to make that decision, what they do.
Right.
We have no control over them.
And I understand that, and that's why I'm saying that perhaps this meeting of understanding what their objectives are, and then have an understanding of what their objectives are versus what we perceive as need that we might possibly be able to, you know, use the commissioner's ability, you know, through going to the Rotaries and just through the things that we do to maybe rustle up some interest in helping by getting some exposure and things of that nature. Representative McConkey.
Thank you. Might I suggest we take the ceiling lifts for a further action item, just pull it out of this list for right now to investigate if there's a savings to purchasing more going forward, whether it should stay at 11,000 or be a higher number. But I want to comment also that the wonderful donations that built the gardens at the old nursing home, when it came time to build this facility, didn't we expend monies to move that garden over here? Or was that all volunteer hours and that brought those garden items over to here?
And that was all volunteer that brought a lot of that plant material over here.
So we didn't pay to relocate any part of that?
Not to my knowledge.
Fantastic. Going on to other items on here, I'd like to discuss the dining tables at $3,104. Before we hear more comment on that, I'd like to suggest, for instance, there's a restaurant closing in town, 4x4 tables, which appear to be the same product out there, in tremendous shape, sold for the neighborhood of $40 as opposed to purchasing new. I don't know that that item needs to be in there, number one. Number two, I'm wondering if a portable product, as what we're sitting around, could be used as an interim item. And I'd like to hear more discussion, because my motion is to remove $3,104 for 4 dining tables for the other room.
I'll second the motion for discussion. I'll let the, sorry.
Dining tables are for the individual neighborhoods. The tables that they're using now are tables like this that were brought over from the old building. They did not get the new tables like upstairs, and they're getting to the point where trying to keep them clean for sanitary reasons and stuff. They're getting cracked. They're not cleanable as well, so that's why we're doing the replacement.
If I could follow up, my understanding previous was that the tables were going to be added to this room here. So these are
on neighborhood resident tables.
And if I could, is there, so right now, if people want to gather in those pods or neighborhoods, whatever the item might be, to have their dinner, they're eating on what, a portable table?
They're eating on either the portable tables or the dining tables that came over from the old building, both downstairs.
Could you answer me why the cost is so much money here?
It's basically you're replacing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tables per unit, so 12 tables.
So the number 4 is...
8 per neighborhood. So
okay, so we're not talking about 4 tables.
No, 16 total.
We're talking about 16
It's the
tables.
setting of them behind.
Okay, well, at least that part of it makes a lot more sense. That it's actually 16 tables and not 4 tables.
Could I ask before we move on that item that when we finish here, we take a tour into one of those areas to see what we're talking about, where the need is.
Okay,
So
that seems reasonable.
So to follow up, when the new facility was built and furnished, there was no provision for a permanent table in those pods to have a place to feed?
I came in after you built your building, and all I know is that those were tables that were brought over from the old building that are downstairs.
Okay, thank you.
All right, yeah, we'll have to check the budget, but I think that in our efforts to try to be as frugal as possible, that does seem reasonable. But we will check them. I think you may be on to something there about those being brought over.
Yeah, motion on the table, can we do that? Can we move on without having to deal with it?
Correct. I'd just soon remove that item for now, till we have a look, or if it's, I think, I would feel better if I were to see the area and see what we have for tables over there.
Okay.
Trying to hold it.
Okay.
So what are you doing with it?
Well, what we're going to do is we are going to finish the plant operation, the new equipment, and then we will actually do the voting on this after we observe the tables. Unless, of course, unless there's an objection, we take a vote on whether or not we do that. It just seemed to be the reasonable function.
Keep it.
Okay, thank you. All right. So basically, we have basically two motions. I apologize, my voice is kind of going in and out. I may need something to drink in the very near future. So currently the motions are removing the ceiling lifts and removing the dining tables from this list for the purposes of perhaps augmenting one of the lines and decreasing the other one lines until we have the observation of the current dining room tables. Is there anything else within the nursing? I heard from my own aspect, I heard them mention that between the wheelchair scale and the chair scale, that one was, I guess I can't resist. Don't the wheelchairs all weigh the same? I don't understand why you need to, just couldn't resist that one. Anyway, so is there one that you could take out for next year? I mean, is that an option that we could consider? Buy one this year, buy one next year, replace the one that's obviously causing the most angst within maintenance?
I mean, if you try to take one out, we can take it out, but basically what I put on there is just stuff that is basically costing us more repair work than we're getting use out of. I've had one chair out every other month now for repair because
Right.
it came over from the old building. If we had to take one, I'd rather take the chair scale out and the wheelchair scale in, but they're both requiring equal amount of repair work, so what we're spending in repair work would offset.
Okay. Thank you very much for that candid answer. Are there anything else where the number is 4 that doesn't mean 4 each, means 4 neighborhoods?
No.
Okay.
And the filing cabinets is
thank you.
for 2?
The filing cabinets are for medical records, they're fireproof filing cabinets. We purchased 2 this year, they're very expensive, but our medical records have to be kept in a fireproof cabinet unless we decide to do something electronically, which I know they were making the presentation for the e-documents to the IT committee. That would clear up that cost, so we would have to buy a couple of a year.
Okay.
We have maxed out the 2 that we purchased with our last year's money already, so these basically are going to be billed as soon as they get here.
Okay. Further questions on the file cabinets? Okay. All right. Well, All right, let's move on to the carpet machine, $3,500.
Much easier for me to hear up here.
Sure.
This is a, what they call a contra-rotating brush. It's a pile lifter, a deep cleaner. It's going to do a much better job of keeping the carpets clean and keeping them in their present state over a long period of time. These are high-traffic carpets. They're going to get matted down. They're going to get a lot of deep sand, dust, and grit at the lower layers of the carpet that our conventional vacuum cleaner can't get. So this is just a maintenance item to prolong the life of these very expensive carpets.
Okay, and I apologize, I had to just get something to keep my voice going. Is this a cleaner or just a very, very good vacuum cleaner?
It's not even a vacuum cleaner. It's a contra-rotating brush that will get deep down into the base of the carpet and pull up dirt, sand, grit that the regular vacuum cleaner can't get.
But is it a wet machine or a dry machine?
Yeah.
It's well, you just put a mist of water on the floor and you work it in. And you can also use this for cleaning as well. You can use cleaning chemicals. It's a multi-purpose machine, but the primary purpose is pile lifting and deep cleaning.
Okay.
And once you pull up all this stuff, it catches it in bins, and whatever you don't get, you run the vacuum cleaner over, and
I got you. I understand. So it doesn't actually vacuum anything, it really just rustles it up, gets it out.
Rustles it up and pulls the stuff that the vacuum cleaner can't get.
Gotcha. Okay.
And do you rent it out?
Do I rent it out? Sure, for another.
All right.
I think it's necessary for long-term maintenance of the carpet.
Representative McConkey.
Thank you. If I could, is this an item you're going to use every day? Is this you're going to bring out once a month? Do you have the personnel to do this, or are you counting on an extra person?
No, I have the
personnel
personnel to do it. It's just going to be added to the list of tasks. It'll probably be done once a month.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
You can do the whole building once a month?
Yeah.
All right, so without objection, what we're going to do now is going to carry on to the expense items. So then we can go, after that, we'll do the tour, and then we'll hone in on these capital equipment items. But since we have, department heads here, I think it's more worthwhile to try to get that taken care of, and then we'll just be down to basically nursing after that department person. So. All right, let's see. All right, we can peck through this and get everybody.
Need that carpet cleaner.
Yeah, there you go.
Security.
That is.
No.
For the moment, but what I guess we could do is
Look at maintenance.
yeah, and then
Plant operations.
plant operations.
Can we get a page number, please?
I can probably best cite it as being 5150 is the section.
There's one we got initially, that's not the same, so.
So that
Oh,
5150.
difference. Okay, difference.
Yeah, but you can still see that's 55100, and then these are all line numbers. That's the section number, so it's 5150 on that sheet. If you want to look at that, but you may not really want to look at that. You probably want to look at what Representative Butler has. Because basically what it comes down to, at least from our I don't know, I guess we didn't put it into a motion, but what it came down to was that housekeeping was looking to add additional hours, 32 hours a week, FTEs. And at least from my view and my recollections of what we had from the budget process was that the increased number of bathrooms and things that were given to us as an example as to why we needed more housekeeping was covered with the 2 additional people that were added to the staff or under operations. So I think that's where we're at now, is trying to ascertain whether or not it's, you know, the feasibility of that situation, I guess is where we're at. So, so I guess my question is there currently any crossover between housekeeping and the plant operations?
Only in floors, and we take care of all the major public floors here. Housekeeping staff takes care of all the resident floors, and actually there is a crossover because they'll wash the public floors, dining rooms, the main areas in the households midweek with their mops while we go through once a week with our machine. And it kind of crosses over there, but there's an awful lot of floor to take care of. My guys do what they can on the large portions of the floors, but I don't want to speak for Debbie, but her housekeeping staff, I'm sure needs some help.
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Gross. I do have, okay, it sounds like I have a lot of people in my department, but I only have actually 6 full-time. I have 2 that are one that's only 16 hours a week, another one's only 24 hours a week. And 2 of mine are in the laundry. They actually work over there, so I really only actually have 6 that are here full-time Tuesday through Thursday. Friday and Monday is when I pick up those other people with the 16 hours. Yeah, I have them work Friday and Mondays, so because we're short on Fridays, the people that work the weekend. So, and then if you get people on vacation, it's a lot of work, and it's only the same amount of people that I had in the old building.
Right.
But we have,
I understand.
Twice the amount, 3 times on
Representative now.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll save you the time. Tell me how the floors, how you would rate the facility as it is today. Clean?
how I would rate it, yes. Clean.
That's evident by our CPA rating that we got, our CSA rating.
My point. The facility, we're up to 5. I thought we were at 4.75.
Oh, we were
We're up to 5. Okay, great. So the facility is clean now. It's taking more time. It's a greater effort for your staff, but the facility is well maintained and clean now. Thank you.
Okay.
My guess, I'm speculating, that what happened with the initial presentation of moving from one building to the other, it was failed to be anticipated that there'd be 4 times as many bathrooms. I mean, I think it probably came down to something as simple as that. The extra staff was probably anticipated for the increased floor care that would be needed, but probably with all the speculation in terms of extrapolation that was going on with budget needs and staffing requirements, that singular aspect probably was neglected or overlooked, and it makes a material difference. Deb and her staff are particularly at, I shouldn't say at risk, but running the risk of being short on weekends and evening hours. That's when we have our least coverage and where where additional is needed and would be used.
Representative Butler?
Thank you. Do you expect that if this 32 hours additional was approved, that would be a maintenance level in terms of staffing that you would be able to manage going forward without additional staff a couple years down the road. And the entry level pay is $10 an hour?
Sorry, Representative McConkey.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, my understanding from an earlier presentation, at 32 hours, we become a full-time employee and we accrue benefits and so forth. I'm not inclined to approve the person number one. You haven't guessed that. I'm not inclined. Because it was made very clear in the presentation, if it's the sins of our fathers, I'm going to go there, in that we were not going to incur any more people or any more cost when you double the facility. I mentioned it time after time, to which the commissioners at present and the other people told me that I was incorrect. So I'm not inclined to add the person, because I think everyone's doing a wonderful job. If I was inclined, I would be thinking of a part-time person at a much smaller number of hours to help relieve some of that and not incur a full-time employee.
I understand exactly where you're coming from. I wasn't asked if I needed more help coming in. I was told I didn't need it.
Yeah.
And so.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Representative Butler.
Thank you. So if we were able to extrapolate another 24-hour position, which would not be full-time, is that correct, and would not incur benefits? Is that correct?
Right, I would be happy with 16 hours.
I'm offering you 24. Would either 16 or 24 not incur benefits at this point?
Correct. Question?
Commissioner.
I guess I'm confused. Debbie asked for 2 new people at 32 hours. Was that 2 at 16 each, or was that 2 at 32?
Right, yes, I did not want a full-time person. I just wanted
So
a
you
couple
want
of part-time.
216?
I didn't understand that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that wasn't clear.
Yes, my recollection during the course of the presentation was that we were not exactly sure if that would be a 2 part-time people or 1 full-time, considered full-time person during those queries.
You got the part-time people now?
Yes, I have one 16 hours that she would not pick up anymore, and I have one 24 hours.
So you have 2.
I have 2 right now.
So I would move to approve 1 16-hour position to modify that line rather than 32.
If I could, Mr. Chairman, with the understanding that we don't move a 16 or a 20-hour person into a full-time status. We're not, my understanding of Representative Butler is that we're not looking to add a full-time person.
Correct.
Right.
Was that a second?
Second.
Okay. Okay. All right, so we're basically looking at changing that line to, jumping around there. Here we go. So that's 51709, salaries under housekeeping, to reduce that line by 1,040 hours. Is that what we're doing? 1,040 hours times $10 an hour?
1,040 hours would have been predicated on 40 hours.
Oh, good call.
32.
Good call.
So by 16 hours.
Yeah, 16 hours.
Right, so we have to take 16 hours times 10? So
I can
that's,
email you all new worksheets, it'll probably be, because it's gonna change multiple line items. It's not just that one cell.
Sure.
okay. All right. With the understanding that that is purely FTE hours and there will be no additional benefits incurred for full-time status.
Mr. Chairman, approximately how much of the savings?
It's approximately 16,000. Did I do that right? 16, no, I'm sorry, 16 hours a week. Sorry, I did do the math right.
So what does that reduce that line item to, Chris?
Well, take 16 times 52, and you get a number. And does somebody have their calculator faster than me? Boom. 16 times 52 equals 832 times 10 is 8,320. So it'll be essentially reducing that line by 8,320, but that will also flow down into Social Security and, you know, the other lines too that's configured here.
So it's gonna be
5-ish.
78-ish, somewhere in there?
Say again? It's going to be 8,003.
That line item will be 200.
Yes, 80, yes. The total number of that line would be in that zone of 278K.
Further question, please, on that line item? Could it be a potential to, if we're going to save $8,300, to you buy one lift with the savings? I mean, we'd only save $6,000, but to put this as an encouragement to save money, could we buy one additional lift with that money?
It may be possible, but that's a separate line on a separate vote.
I'm just asking that as a...
You could, I suppose, parliamentary-wise, you could propose amendment. We could vote on it, but, you know, to omnibus it, but, okay. All right, any more? Representative McConkey.
And I'm not sure we have fully finished on this. Care of grounds and buildings repair maintenance were the only other two items I have under plan operations.
Voting on that one motion.
We are. We're gonna take a vote on that, see how that goes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So the motion on the floor is to reduce the line 517.009 to the reduction of 16 FTEs for that department, which we perceive as being approximately $8,320.
16 hours.
For the 16 hours, which would bring that number to about 278,000 and change. The exact number to be provided by the. Okay, so all in favor of that, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, so that we will do. And did you have more in housekeeping though? Because I see the possibility now of letting Debbie go back to cleaning the quadruple number of bathrooms that she had 2 years ago. Anything else under housekeeping that we need to address?
I don't see anything.
Okay. Okay, well, Debbie, thank you very much. You know, the budget process is obviously not easy for you, and believe it or not, it's not very easy for us either, and we appreciate all the obvious hard work that you do here, without question, which was definitely demonstrated by the rating of the facility. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so now let's see if we go over to plant operations. I guess we need to go, is that before? I know it's close. There it is. All right, so that's 5150. And let's see, Representative McConkey, did you have a question?
Care of grounds and building repair, have we beaten that to death already? I still have stars next to both items.
Yeah, the care of grounds we haven't really talked too much about. The building repair was due to the reinstitution of the maintenance contract.
Correct.
Okay.
But the care of grounds, we haven't really discussed why there's an additional 5,000.
Care of grounds, it falls under my line, but it's not my forte. That's all under Will. He takes care of the grounds, septic systems, water systems. I can't answer any questions on that line.
So
It does fall under my budget.
So does this basically get transferred from the plant operations department over to the farm department as revenue?
What, care of grounds?
Yeah.
Care of grounds, yeah, that's all outside.
What number is Carroll ground on the sheet?
It's under, the number would be 515080.
515080.
I think you'll find that trash is also under that.
Yes.
Isn't that interesting?
Waste
That's not on my
Waste
sheet.
management.
It's under care of grounds.
Get on the right one here.
So it's not all transferred over to the farm.
I get on the wrong sheet there. Thank you. Sorry.
I guess, Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
From my other subcommittee chair hat, I heard a conversation from the farm supervisor that there are that time spent at different buildings is costed out and attributed to his department. Can this facility tell me that they've transferred over last year $44,600 or $55,000 in this budget? Because it was my understanding that the farm isn't tracking those hours at this point in time and not receiving funding. So is there an actual exchange? And when that money's exchanged over, is there an accounting for what that work was done and at what cost and how many hours?
Kathy Armstrong does journal.
It was up until a couple of months ago when he stopped doing it because he was putting in more time over here and it wasn't budgeted for it. So he said, what's the use of keeping track of the time? He's now back keeping track of the time that's spent in each of the buildings.
Okay,
I don't know why he did that, but he did.
Okay, so there's an accountability issue as to what went over. My question is are you as the head of this facility aware for what you're paying for services, how many hours, and is there actually a transfer, or is that just happening from the commissioners on the book, a bulk slide over of $55,000? Do you know what you purchased for your money is my question.
No. It's actually a journal entry that's assigned by the administrative office to us. It's not one that we don't contract separately with Will for grounds.
And if I could follow to the commissioners, are the commissioners aware of what it? Well, there was comment that the farm was actually spending even more time over here or at some buildings to perform services. So if that's the case, do you know what you're paying for and what we're itemizing off?
What we're paying for? What do you mean?
There's a line item here for proposed for $60,000.
Right.
And part of that expense is for trash.
Correct.
Is that a contract with Casella or Waste or something like that?
I believe
Yeah,
it
that's
is.
a contract with Waste Management.
So that's probably what, $10,000, $12,000?
I don't know the
Like
numbers.
16, it's quite a bit.
Yeah, it is.
Way more than that.
16,000,
Yeah.
16, 17,000.
Okay, so if we take, let's say we took 20,000 out for $40,000, do we know what it is that's being provided for? Is that a good cost? Is that something on outside maintenance could be cost out to somewhere else? Is there even more need, so we need to schedule more time over here?
We're spending more time over here because of the shape and size of the different lawns around this facility, where it can't be mowed with a riding mower, it's all hand mower. Depends on the year, whether we have a lot of snow a lot from one year to the next. There's a whole lot of flexibility that needs to be put into that budget. He has proposed to us a flat fee. Whether you have a good year or a bad year, he would still get in his budget an income from the nursing home and the administration building and the jail. We haven't actually taken a look at that. Right now it's supposedly on a pay-as-you-go. In other words, if they spend more time here, that's what they get paid for.
So if I could just finish. So presently, under care of grounds, minus the trash removal, we are mowing lawns, we are removing snow. What else are we doing over here?
Sanding.
Generator is separate.
Generator's got its own line.
Does nursing home
Don't
maintenance?
forget when you're considering mowing lawns, Representative McConkey, they spend hours over here weed whacking. It's not just getting on a ride around and mowing.
I fully understand what it takes to maintain a building and mow a lawn, but I know we spent more money over here in the exterior of our building to make sure that we made maintenance a process that would go quicker for our people, that they wouldn't be concerned with getting too close. There were some landscape features that were built in here. My concern is we don't have a handle on that. It's a number that's thrown in there. Is that adequate? Is that number adequate for what needs to be paid to maintain this facility? How many hours is it taking to do that? It sounds pretty open-ended to me.
According to Will, he's not getting enough money out of this building.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think I have a handle on that. We're getting the better end of the stick on this. After we deduct trash, we're paying about $3,000 a month. We're not hiring a staff member for the outside. We're not buying, repairing equipment. We're not buying supplies in terms of sand. We're not beating up on trucks. Will is getting the shorter end. We could not contract out to get all the outside services for $3,000 a month for the landscape and size of building that we have here, and wouldn't be able to get the same level of service. So I hate to tamper with it too much, because I think we're being treated very extremely fairly by Will and what gets allocated out here.
The commissioner.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Representative McConkey, we went out for bid probably 4 or 5 years ago on what it would cost to get it snow plowed. Or was it?
$95,000.
$95,000.
For the whole complex.
But to your point, no. Can you pin it down to exactly what they're paying? No.
Might I suggest to the commissioners, if I could, Mr. Chairman, that I found real issue with the matrix that was used when we went out for a bid, and it came back at $90,000+ to remove snow. I think your standard that you put out and scared off many contractors and is different than the schedule that we use ourselves when we're in charge of how we maintain the facility. I think it would be in the best interest of the county to re-look at that and put it back out to bid, and to open it up to some other people that could help you see what your needs are. $90,000 was beyond where it should be, and I think it was the matrix of how it was put together. So I would hate to hold our heels to something we did 3 years ago, and the economy now is in a position where I know there's contractors that would be more than happy to.
Let's just not forget that this building here is a 24/7, 365 facility, and it needs to be maintained 24 hours a day. We have extremely tight control on the farm and their maintenance procedures, where I don't think that if we went out to subcontractors, you'd have that same amount of control.
If I could finish up, I can appreciate that. Huggins Hospital, Memorial Hospital, and there's many likewise facilities that are out there. I can assure you that operate under the same. And I'm sure when times are busy, in the last 2 days here, when snow was coming down beyond belief with only one truck, I'm sure there's times that a level of service under what was an ideal condition was probably not maintained here.
Representative Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It seems to me that what we're talking about is needing to account for this line and those general expenses in a different way than it's being done now. And it's not something that we can pull apart in this budget, but that it makes a great deal of sense to be able to pull it apart and to understand the hours expensed and at what cost, so that the farm budget will be clearer and the services that Will and the farm provide will be sorted out rather than bulk billed. And so I would suggest that we make a recommendation to have that done in a period of time that is reasonable, whether it's 3 months or 6 months or however that's done.
Agreed. I agree with Representative Butler that Representative McConkey's points are very well taken. It makes a lot of sense for us to have any idea of exactly what it's costing the county to maintain the exterior keeping of the grounds here. We need to have an accounting of it, and then that somehow being absorbed because the farm is not producing a break-even is certainly somewhere in that mix, because we always are cognizant of the fact that the farm always shows a loss, and we always go, gosh, how can they be losing money when they don't, have all that quote-unquote free labor? We always are scratching our heads, but then we see that they're actually not billing out for as much as they do, but it also makes them look enormously competitive to independent contractors. So is what I heard there. So I concur that we recommend to the commissioners that they require a better form of accounting, so we know exactly what it is costing for those care of the grounds, so we can make those decisions in the future. However, having said that, that doesn't have anything to do with our budget, so we should probably move forward.
Mr. Chairman, clarify one thing. The expense for the maintenance, is that just for this building? How many buildings or places does that cover?
Just this building.
It's a facility.
And the farm as well? In that number that we have in here?
That's an apportionment. The farm has their department, okay, which is under farm in here, which is 7,100. And he lists out all his expenses. And that's what he pays his guys. And then under revenues, the farm gets revenue, and that's apparently under maintenance income, which there's 2 lines that say maintenance income. And I'm presuming that one's for this building and one's for the administration building, that somehow separated out like that. Somehow separated out. That we don't know. To Representative McConkey's point is, when you look here, it says we're spending $40,000 less trash, but then when you go to the income under farm, you're kind of hard pressed because you look at maintenance income through, we have 12/5, so that's only through the end of October, and then on the other page, 16/6. So,
Talking about the fairgrounds and 60, and then these are all under nursing home.
Right, so that amount of money is what the nursing home pays the farm, budget-wise. That 40,000, 60 minus 20 approximately. But the point is that things don't seem to be coming full circle, because when you look at the income, we can't seem to make that tie out. So,
thank you.
All right. So I think, do we have any more questions for plant operations? So maybe we can let Bob hit the road. Do we have any other motions? I don't think we made any, actually.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Representative Butler.
Just in terms of the salary line, I know we went over this, but I wanted a clarification from the 173 to 229. That's one additional position, is that correct, or is that?
The 173 number I see from 2011.
Right.
I'm not sure where you're looking.
That's the only one that I have that's an annual expense.
Well, that was, maybe I don't want to interject, but we'd already spent 213 through the end of November.
Right.
So, and last year's budget was 223, and they're looking at 229 for next year. I think we had the ramping up of the new
Yes.
person that's part of that.
The adopted budget then is last year's budget?
Correct.
Okay, I'm
Adopted,
sorry.
yeah, that's
I'm
last
sorry.
year's budget. 173 is 2011 actual.
That's just a clarification then.
Okay. All right, any other, Representative McConkey?
The additional person, or is it hours for, is it a part-time person, full-time person?
No, they're 2 full-time employees,
In addition
40 hours
to,
each.
in addition to, weren't there 2 added last year?
Oh,
That's what we're
those-
talking
those are the
about. That's the impact on the actuals, though. Sorry, I'm
Yeah.
talking.
They gave me 2 full-time employees moving over to this new building, but I did not hire them the day that we moved into the new building. It took me time to fill those 2 positions.
Okay, thank you.
That is, so he answered your question. There aren't 2 more new people from the original 2 new people. That's just the impact on the actuals that now we have them. Anything else regarding plant operations? Seeing none, thank you, Bob.
All right, thank you.
Once again, thank you for all your hard work. We
Appreciate it, thanks.
All right.
Susan's here from Recreation.
Okay, let's do that one. Do we have any questions about recreation from the floor? Hi, Susan, how are you? Good. Welcome to the table. I guess. Representative McConkey.
Thank you. If I remember correctly, there's an increase in personnel and wanting to expand your services later in the day. Is that your department?
Looking for an additional 32 hours to basically cover vacation and holiday time. I have a lot of longevity in the department. I have a great deal of difficulty covering when anyone takes vacation time, because the hours that I have cover my staffing exactly. I actually have enough vacation and holidays that someone logistically should be out 4 days a week if I were to grant all of the earned time that employees are entitled to.
Follow up?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was a discussion, tell me if it hasn't been discussed, that wanting to increase activities, recreational therapy after 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock hour. Is that your department? That's not your department?
That was not my intent, no.
Okay. And on your staff, wait, if I could, is this a different department than we discussed? And I
No,
talked-
this is the same.
Okay.
Just hearing different.
If I could. Your staff comes in, do they all come in at a certain hour during the course of a day?
No, I typically will have 4 staff here during the day, 1 for every neighborhood, from like 8 to 4.
Okay.
At night, we drop down to 2 staff. And they do the best they can with those levels, but there's not as many residents up, and the busy time of day is definitely during the day. So I drop down to 2. On the weekends, I just have the day coverage.
And the 2 staff that are here in the evening time, what's happening during that time?
They still they do programming. I kind of alternate between which floors. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, they're primarily downstairs. I've been moving them upstairs at least 1 or 2 days a week to provide some coverage up there.
And can you tell me the sort of activities they're doing in the evening hours?
They're low-key in the evening. On the first floor, we would gather residents together from both sides, because residents are going to bed. We try to keep it quieter by bringing people out here that are up and about. With the dementia, we do a lot of music-type programs, or just reminiscing, sitting around the table, just trying to keep everyone relaxed, calm, low-key.
What hours do they work?
At night,
The night
They
shift.
work until 7:30, so they would
From
come
what
in
time to what time?
3:30 to 7:30. But I also have staff that one day a week do 11:30 to 7:30.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Babson.
Mr. Chairman, I'm concerned, as I believe Representative McConkey was, somewhere along the line, somebody, maybe a different department, was presented to two people to fill the afternoon slots later into the evening to keep people busy. I thought it was your department, so maybe it isn't. Where did the confusion come?
I think Director Chandler might be able to help us with that, I guess.
I'd be the source of the confusion, because what happens, and Susan explains it well, with all the coverage time that's where people aren't, sometimes when you only have two people in the evening, that's where it's most affected drastically. One of those people aren't there, it's a 50% reduction. So the 32 hours, by making up for the time that people are otherwise away, are going to fill in. And I misdirected you in thinking that it was going to be primarily the evening. It certainly would include evening, but it's for staff overall.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've established that. I think I guess when we get to the bottom line on that is that, throughout this facility, we don't budget for vacation, sick time. That's not in the budget, it's all absorbed. So, I guess the real question is that really effective in the amount? I mean, do we need to is that just a magic bullet number, or is that a number that we picked out of a hat, or could we reduce that to 32, I guess, because you mentioned 4 days a week, and blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? So, okay, could that be reduced by 8 hours a week and still fulfill your needs?
I came up with 32 based on the amount of vacation days that I have to cover. 32 would cover it.
Okay. So was this based on a 40-hour increase or a 32-hour increase?
32.
Full-time employee.
But they're considered full-time. They get health benefits at 32, so.
Okay. Okay,
They do
Paul,
not get retirement, so they
it's
get-
actually, because I just have a note here, it says 40. So, but it really is 32, not 40 in the hours. Okay. For a moment there, I thought I was on something. Representative Nelson.
Thank you. How can you plan for vacation when, or know when someone's going to be sick? Because there's going to be days I would think this person would be here and nobody's sick. And then there's days you have all sorts of people on vacation. How do you work that out that you're not sitting here?
Vacation time is planned and scheduled, so we have more control over that. I can't control or know when people are going to call it sick. On those days, it's likely that a neighborhood doesn't have coverage if somebody calls in sick. I will try to step in and provide the coverage that I can for that neighborhood, but if 3 people call in sick, I'm struggling to maintain the level of activities that I want for the residents. We have 4 neighborhoods, so I have 1 person on every neighborhood. The way this building is laid out, we can't really cover for each other. If you're over on that neighborhood, you really can't, it's not realistic to also be on the other side of the building, bringing residents together. It's difficult.
Unless you had that opportunity to combine them and then have that one person in that fashion. But to that lie, as a follow-up to Representative Nelson, that you don't have people that are per diem, or you don't have any part-timers that come in to help cover sick, or it's just strictly when people call in sick,
I have several part-time positions. And basically, as I've hired new people, I use them in a per diem capacity in that they don't have a set schedule. I use them to fill in where I need them. And this position would be largely the same thing. No set schedule. I would use them depending on who was on vacation that week to fill in where I needed them. So it could be, they might have to work a couple nights that week. They might have to work, days that week or that weekend. It would depend on who was on vacation.
And this particular position, there's no statutorial mandates requiring these folks to be on the floor. That was a slot pitch question.
On the, what do you mean by on the floor?
You're not required by statute to have a certain number of recreational therapists on your floor. So if one calls in sick, it's not that we are in a position where we are doing something that is not in compliance with the statutes and states.
No, there's no statute that I know of, but does it affect residents? Yes, it absolutely does. And my staff do more than just, they're not just running bingo, they're up there passing trays and assisting residents with meals. And you know, if the LNAs are having a particularly bad day because there's a resident that has Alzheimer's that's really wound up, my staff would more than likely be helping out with those type of situations as well. So it definitely impacts, but it's not required.
Right. Well, that's great to hear, because I can imagine under the circumstances of the additional bathrooms, there must be some additional pitching in going on somewhere amongst the staff, so we appreciate that. Representative McConkey.
Thank you. My background in college is recreation and had some time in therapy, and so I don't discount the service you or your people do, and I don't consider you to be bingo providers. But my question is, when you had the old facility, was your staffing at the same level in the old building as it is now?
Yes, but there was one recreation room in the old building. It was much smaller. It was much easier for one person to cover a side of the building versus having two on that side of the building. Logistically, it was easier.
And that would be reasonable, and a reasonable person would have thought that before they doubled the size of their building, but we won't go there again. To the representative's point, if someone were to call in, my understanding is you have a long time staffing. People have been in your department for a considerable amount of time. Am I correct about that?
Many of them, yes.
And so part of that is where they're coming up to this additional time. And that in the event that someone doesn't come or calls in sick, we don't have to call in, as the representative said, to fill that position for the day.
Correct.
So it would be nice if you could gain this person and there would be a benefit to your residents. I understand your request. Thank you.
Representative Butler.
Thank you. And as you know, 32 hours means full-time and therefore benefits. You say you do some per diem. Is there the possibility of having 2 part-time people to fill that 32 hours? How difficult would it be to manage, and how negative would that be versus the one person?
I think it's easier to fill a position that has some benefits, obviously.
Sure.
In the past, I have hired people at those hours. It's been extremely difficult to find someone that's qualified enough to do the job when you only have 16 hours a week to offer. You typically get people that, you know, I get high school students to apply, which obviously they don't work because they can't work during the day. I might get individuals that have absolutely no experience, but just, oh, I need a part-time job, and they're not as flexible either if they've got another job. So it's definitely a challenge to find a 16-hour person.
Thank you.
Well, I guess I'm going to, since we talked about the per diem, we talked about the part-time, and it appears that you have a bit of a pool of part-time, but it doesn't sound like you have a pool of per diems that you can pull from the other surrounding facilities, which I would imagine that there are some people who do work at other facilities that may be willing to work here on a per diem basis or for whatever reason. And I would think that based on what I heard sitting here, that if you were to offer an hourly rate that was much higher than your hired rate, then you, for your per diem rate, then you may actually incur some folks that were willing to do it because if they already have their benefits because they already work at another facility where benefits are supplied, now they really be looking at their per hour basis. So even if their per diem per hour basis was increased, then they may be enhanced. You know, I agree that the management of it may be somewhat more difficult, but it may, in the long run, you may find it, you know, if they're signing up for these in advance, you may find it's actually worthwhile. And it's my understanding that the nursing staff has per diem folks, and they might be able to move forward on something like that in the future, where we actually would be able to avoid the increase in benefits, which may be something that might get eliminated anyway in the very near future. So, any more on the adding the extra 32 hours? Representative McConkey?
I'll move not to add 32 hours at this time. Suggest that recreational therapy is going to have to find a new model of how to do business with what they have. Take the year's time to quantify where it really needs to be in the future. But at this point in time, I can understand that we added some time on for housekeeping to take care of our facility, but I think we should draw a line on where some of this extra personnel is coming from, and I'd move not to approve the 32 hours.
Second for the purpose of discussion.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, I'm just trying to. So I'm the chair myself. I don't think I can make a motion. So.
I would suggest that I don't know which line we're on, but we're reducing that line, and there's going to be other lines that are going to carry with workman's comp and all those others that are going to be regulated. But my motion is to remove the request of 32 hours from that salary line.
Okay.
Allow time to come up with what that number is.
Okay. Discussion? Representative Butler.
Thank you. Knowing the importance of recreational therapy to the quality of life of the residents, and trusting that the request in this instance simply fills out the basic need for programming, I'll vote against the motion. I understand where you're coming from, and I understand that service can be provided. But it seems to me that it's a valuable place to put some money.
Well, I guess from where I sit, this is what I see from the course of, what we heard today, was the fact that the lion's share of this money was designed to help pay for the vacations and sick time for the folks that were currently employed, since they were all long-time employees and had highly accrued vacation. So what I see personally is that there may be some validity to the tightness of the budgeting. However, I definitely don't want to delve into the fact that this person might be getting benefits, that somehow this opens the door for the additional benefits of an additional full-time person. And we're looking at, vacation pay. So,
could you accept something less than 40 hours?
I may be, willing to consider an increase of less than the 32 hours presented, and that would be one possibility. Is maybe we would consider only increasing it by the 16-hour-week situation, with the footnote that we would not be increasing the medical benefits or any other benefits in the course of that it would indeed be another part-time person or a per diem person, or however they might be able to, get the extra help that they need. Or that we would consider adding an additional line for vacations. And then that way, when we add that additional line for vacations, now we really aren't worrying about someone going to full-time basis, because we're not authorizing any extra FTE. We are only authorizing some additional money spent currently out of this hourly line. But So anyway, that's where I sit right now. I'm probably, you know, so I would support 16 hours just in order to help alleviate some of the pressures that's going on, but also to keep us from not going into the additional benefits package for an additional person in that category. Me personally, that's just where I stand. So that's it.
Further discussion? It's a department that enjoys longevity. I'm sure the residents that have been here for a amount of time enjoy the familiar face, the activities, and the quality of service they're receiving. We are looking at numbers, every year we sit down with the budget, more people, more people, more people. I would suggest that there are some departments that may not have as seasoned and dedicated staff as what we're enjoying here. I'm suggesting that that perhaps there's another way for this department to do business. I'm suggesting that they take a year's time to develop a model that starts to work. That, you know, what worked at the old building isn't working in the new building, and sometimes just throwing more people into it and spending more money may not be the answer. I still leave my motion forward, whether it pass or fail, but I don't like the slippery slope that we're getting into of adding 8 hours, 16 hours, and we're saying that, you know, we don't want this to become full-time people, we don't want to be paying benefits, and you know darn well that we can't strap future legislators or delegations on what our wishes are, and we're building up an item that's just going to cost us more and more and more. So I'll stay with mine. Just soon we call it yay or nay and then move forward, and I'll be voting against the other also.
Okay, any further discussion? Commissioner Babson?
I don't agree with Representative McConkey. I think his overall premise that we were promised all sorts of things when this place was built, and that we weren't going to need X amount of people, we were only going to need 2 more people. That was said to us. The reality is we're here now. It's a much bigger building. Susan has a job to do here that she doesn't have the help to do it, and that unfortunately I think we have to bite the bullet and give these people the people that they need. Now we know what the requirements are, and I hope you would support her.
Any further discussion? Sorry, I'm trying to look at an overview of everything that we're doing so far.
I'd like to make a comment on the model that works best. Years ago, when I first started in rec, it was all about quantity and not quality. The newer models are really focused on providing quality, appropriate, targeted programs that do not work well in large groups. In order to do our job really well, we're focused more on smaller groups with residents that meet that need, or even one-on-one or one-on-two type of programming. And that's really my goal, is to lend that type of programming versus having one person cover the whole floor and meeting people in the middle and, you know, going for that. I only have 1 staff upstairs, so we're going to just have to combine everybody. That model does not work.
Could I ask how many of your resident population are participating in a daily basis in your activities? You have basically 100 residents. Do you have 100 residents that are clamoring for your activities and that you're providing for at present, or is it lesser number?
I think all 103 residents have some sort of leisure in their day, yes.
That you and your staff are accommodating at this point in time? Because I just don't see where we're ever going to get to a level. I can understand you're saying the benefit of working with a smaller group. I don't see that you're ever going to get to a level of accommodating 103 people with 2, 3, or 4 staff during the course of a day.
The accommodations would be different for everybody. Some residents are largely independent and don't need us as often or as much of our day, which allows us to focus on residents that do. For some residents, it might just be me going around saying a quick hello, making sure they have what they need, making sure the TV's on their right station, because that's what they enjoy doing. So do they all get the same amount? No. But it's based on what people need from us.
Okay.
Representative Nelson?
What types of group activities would they be doing during the day? I mean, a bingo or something like that. What types of things are they doing?
We do a lot of games. We do a lot of word games or a lot of reminiscing activities. We obviously do the social events, the gatherings, the parties, the seasonal events. On the first floor, where we have memory impaired, we do a lot of sensory type activities to reach those that are the really lower level. We do exercise groups. We have a Wii upstairs that we use quite a bit. We do little crafts. I have a group upstairs that does a sewing group. I mean, it's cooking. It's always changing, depending on what our residents are interested in.
Plus outside, if you go outside, you go out, take them out too.
Yes, we go out twice a week generally.
Director Chandler.
What we're really looking at is during the day a staff ratio of 1 activity staff to 12 residents, and in the evening it's 1 activity staff to 24 residents. We're not overstaffed by any means. On weekends, we're only looking at daytime staffing of 1 to 12, and that's when everybody is here, when there's nobody sick, when there's nobody on vacation. So when everybody's here, we're at the bare minimum, and we have so many hours where people on a scheduled basis can't be here, we fall below that minimum threshold. So we're not gilding things here. We're trying to maintain the standard that's really unrelated. While some things logistically were easier in the old building, these are standards that would apply in any facility anywhere in terms of what would be considered adequate staffing. So we're close to where we need to be, but we're not even quite where we should be.
I just want to correct your number. It would be 1 to 26 residents, not 12.
That's what I thought.
On the weekends, that.
During the day. No, during the day. Every neighborhood has 25 or 26 residents.
That's right.
It would be double that at night.
That's right.
So it'd be 26 and 52?
Yeah.
That would make sense. 2 minus, yeah.
That's right. I stand corrected.
Okay, well, I think that from where I sit is that the design of the building was for many things. But one of the things that were repeated to us over and over again, that it would be more efficient, that it would not require more people. And, now we're here and we're asking for more people. And to Representative McConkey's end, the question really is do we really need more people, or are there people that have gained efficiencies in some areas and we are not taking advantage of that, versus the people who are not, they're in positions where their efficiencies have been decreased by the physical plant, okay? To that end, and I'm going to use an example that I have no idea of, is the fact that we are sending the food to these different neighborhoods mean that now dietary needs less people, but we do need more recreational therapy and more LNAs. But we're not removing anybody from dietary to increase LNAs. Do you see? That's where I have my questions. Are we not reconfiguring the budget and the staffing based on the new facility? Or are we just kind of staying where we are and then just adding to the places where we're feeling deficiency? And that's where I have my problem, or my questions. I know we're working hard, but when we came here, we were told that this was going to be more efficient. Yes, it was also going to be more friendly, but it was also going to be more efficient. And so, and I can see, certainly in some areas it's going to be more efficient, but in some areas it's going to be less efficient. It's going to be more efficient because people are going to not get as many infectious diseases because they all have separate rooms. So that should technically mean we need less help with those things, you know? As a for instance, that would make sense. And we're spending the money for the lifts, so we would need less help lifting people. So, but that's not translating into that reality of less people on the budget.
But it's still positively affecting the budget in terms of when we look at what this new building allows us to do on the revenue side. Our overall costs in terms of expenses per resident are well in line compared to other counties, but where we exceed most other counties is our ability to generate revenues. So we're closing that gap by what, some $300,000. So that while expenses did go up incrementally a little bit, our revenue has gone up quite a bit. So that we are much more efficient if you take into account revenue as well. So while it would always be nice to reduce costs, sometimes some incremental increase in cost is necessary to get a greater benefit in terms of increased revenue. So I'd like to consider it, what we're doing is investing, making a modest investment to get a greater gain on the revenue end, with the idea of closing that gap to ideally at some point being self-sufficient.
Representative McConkey.
Part of also the advantage of going to this new model that no one else has used previous to build this facility as a county was by having the pods and having the neighborhoods, it increased the residents' enjoyment of their facility because they could be out at these areas. What we heard from yourself last meeting was, and I've heard this from other people, that the delivery to get from point A to point B and how much time it takes, my understanding is there's more requests for power wheelchairs and everything else in here because of this space difference. So where the committee bought into the fact of how good it would be to have individuals in individual rooms, to have pods and to have neighborhoods, we're finding some shortfalls that we're apparently anticipating. One of them is how far it is to get people between the number for recreational staff and so forth. But we had also mentioned before that there was a need to bring more people together here in group activities and out of their pods. I haven't heard anything about that, which was what led us to the tables and so forth before. So not only were there efficiencies going to be, and I'm absolutely excited about the fact of driving down our costs, but I think there was even more unanticipated, less effective things that were going to happen by going with this design, and here clearly is one of them. And I think the model can be changed so that delivery can be taken care of.
Representative Butler.
I would just, I think it's important to do what we're doing. I think it's important to look at all the pieces and to ask the questions about how best we can control the budget for any variety of reasons. But I don't think we should be basing the needs now, the requests now, on we were promised argument. We're here and we have seemingly exceptional staff who are trying to present as realistic a budget as possible. In this instance, the difficulty of dealing with the idea of benefits, I think, is one that is probably paramount in this piece. Trying to drive a reconfiguration of programming by saying you can't have this position and therefore make it work better. I appreciate the desire, the expectation, but I think that is you're doing fiscal oversight of a professional analysis, and I don't think that makes sense. I think if somebody says, in order to provide this professional service, we need to do it this way, that's fine. Take away 32 hours, I don't think they're going to be able to redesign the system any differently or any better. It'll just mean that those services won't be provided that could be provided with that particular service. And what the administrator says, I think, is really important for us to look at. Yes, we're asking for 32 hours here and 16 hours there and 2 positions there, but if we reach a net zero within a couple of years, and if we're seeing the decrease in expenditures to the taxpayers every year over the past few years, the benefit of this facility is being seen and is being impacted. And I think we have to take all those things into consideration.
Right. Yes.
Just briefly, and I don't know what went on with some of the original discussions about efficiency between the old building and this building, but I have to tell you, there's no more efficient building than the old building. You can't get more efficient than having 2 people in a room and sharing half a bathroom and having everything in a very small, compact area. It just isn't what's close to what's best or even acceptable practice. What I can tell you is that the increases that we've seen here and that you're seeing proposed in this budget aren't part of an ongoing creep. So that, while it's a step increase as we've been in this building for a year and we find out what we really need, it's not part of a never-ending request for more people, more money, and whatever. So that I feel confident that we're going to be at a point of equilibrium. But I'll never tell you that this building is more efficient than the old building. But it is wonderfully efficient, and it's worlds ahead in terms of quality of care. And it actually provides that basis for revenue that other building never would be able to generate. It's a great investment that the county made.
One additional question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Representative Nelson.
Is the 16 hours, if we went to a person, for the sake of argument, half-time, are they guaranteed that work per week? Or could that be saved and all of a sudden you want somebody in for a week when there's a vacation? So the total number per month.
It could be flex scheduled.
So you wouldn't use somebody 1 week and the other week you may need them 5 days.
But as Susan says, finding somebody that's willing to work flex schedule is a whole different horse, and that's very difficult, and perhaps impossible.
Okay, so the motion on the floor at this moment is to remove 32 FTEs from, I apologize, I have to get on the right line, not physical, recreational therapy. So we are on 519109. And so we are going to reduce that from the budget, the 32 hours
Did you
a
have
week.
a motion on the floor, Mr. Chairman, that we vote on that?
Yes.
Yeah, that motion's on the floor, it was seconded.
And I thought you said you were just taking it off, but we're not going to hold a vote.
No, I wasn't saying that, I'm sorry, I probably should enunciate more clearly. We are going to vote on it. I was just trying to restate the motion more succinctly. So we're looking at 32 hours a week. Oops, that's calendar, not calculator. A little quick with the finger there. Okay, so we're looking at 32 hours a week times 52 is 1664. And this is for recreational therapy. That wage is, Paula, you want to help me with that?
They start at 10 too.
10. Okay, so that's $16,000 16,640. So to reduce that number by 16,640.
You have the menus, right? Somewhere in there, the benefits.
Right.
So that essentially would reduce that line to 269,270. 75. Yes. To about 269, 270. Okay. And then the according Social Security and the other linked. All right. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I-
2 nays, so the motion fails. So I want to propose the motion of the 16 hours. And let us not forget, we still have 40 FTEs for the LNAs coming up.
You wouldn't consider 24, would you? It's still part-time, it's still not full, it's still without benefits.
I agree, but it's just where I sit. I don't know. I'm going to give a little, despite.
Second.
Any discussion?
Question? Do I assume that that means you can't add it on to get a full-time person? Those hours on to something?
When there's a tie, the motion fails. So we have 4 people here, so we're going to have to get a 3-to-1 to make anything work. So hopefully.
No, I guess what I'm saying.
I'm sorry, Mrs.
The other motions, we've always had, and have in some of them, that this could not be combined with other hours to come up with a full-time person.
Right, so that there are no benefits.
Right.
And I would add that.
As a friendly amendment, I accept that.
Or add it on to someone's present salary.
Okay.
If I could, I would still vote against the motion.
Okay. Any more discussion? All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. So that does carry. So we will change that to 16 FTEs.
16 hours?
Yeah, as opposed to the 32.
Chairman, I'll be leaving in 15 minutes for another subcommittee meeting.
Okay.
5-10 minutes actually.
All right.
Probably 5 minutes.
All right, well, let's move on to the LNAs then. Thank you, Sue. Pardon? I thought her name was Susan. No, am I making a mistake? What's her first name? Susan. Susan, yeah. Susan, yeah. It's like, no, I just said the wrong name.
You had it right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, on discussion on the LNAs, Representative Umberg had brought forward a comment to me, and I didn't know if should be discussed, that we've had considerable talk about possibly holding back some of that money as a merit pay over the review period of, was there 3-week or 6-week or some 2 schedules that people are evaluated, haven't been in the past but would be, and we were talking about possibly, I think it was 40 cents being used as merit pay. The representative suggested that if we were to turn whatever that was as bonus money as opposed to merit pay, that bonuses would not incur other costs down the line, whether it's workman's comp and other benefits. And is that a possibility that that could be paid as a bonus as opposed to salary?
LNA is a union contract, just remember that.
Yeah. Well, I guess from my experience with it, the workman's comp wouldn't be affected by bonusing it out, and the Social Security and Medicare would be affected by bonusing it out.
Okay.
But that might mean that it would affect the retirement. That might affect the retirement if we use it as a bonus as opposed to, and I would have to see whatever I'm not sure how the contract works with the retirement. So as far as that's concerned, it might help for the retirement, but it won't help, to my knowledge,
Those other items.
the Social Security and the Medicare,
Okay.
that's wages, salaries, and bonus, all that goes on that same line on your W-2. So,
And in terms of the union contract, is it even possible?
We can put a sidebar if Howie agrees to it, if the union agrees to it, and the commissioners agree to it. We
Right.
checked with an attorney, and he said that could be done as a sidebar without opening up the whole contract.
And my understanding of a bonus is a single one-time payment does not affect underlying base rate, just so that we're all talking about the same. And that is an interesting approach, because it's something that you do in good years and you might not be able to do in other years.
And I checked one place locally in terms of LNA pay, and Merriman House is doing $9.50 to $14.56 as their scale.
okay. All right, and essentially we're looking at a starting pay of 11, right? That, with the proposed increase would be 11. I think it's currently, what, 10?
The current base pay for an LNA, we do pay between $10 and $14 based on years of experience, but a brand new LNA coming in
Right.
earns $10 an hour.
Right.
A brand new high school student coming into the dietary department to do dishes earns $10 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
A brand new housekeeper coming in that has to run a vacuum earns $10 an hour. The difference is an LNA has to take training, be licensed, and deals a lot more closely with the residents than housekeeping and dishwashing do. I did look at it through the county because everybody else that has presented to the commissioners did not go to, Ossipee Police Department to see what the police were being paid. They compared to the county, so that's the only thing I did. Yes, I know Merriman House and them are paying time. But these people have never had raises except for contractual raises. The brand new employees that I've hired in the last year and a half. The reason for that is, one, if you have not completed your probationary period by April 1st when the new contractual raise goes through, you never see that raise, never. It's an entire year before you get a raise, and that's the next contracted raise. So, like myself last year, I hadn't completed my probationary period by April 1st, you don't get the negotiated contract raise. It's completely gone, never to be seen again. The other thing is that the base pay rate has never included the negotiated contract raises. I don't know where they go, but it's just for those employees working. So it's never been calculated into a base rate pay. If it was, say this year, the negotiated raise was calculated in, then automatically my base pay would go up to $10.40 a year. It doesn't do that. We do hourly rates totally different than negotiated increases. Secondly, just so you know, the nursing budget has not changed since 2005. We are working on a wage index that was presented in 2005, and we're now at 2013. So there has never been a change, an increase of any kind to the base rate for the nursing department since 2005. And that's when there was a big overhaul. It went from $9 an hour to $10 an hour and subsequently 50 cents on each step.
So 2005?
Mm-hmm.
And is that across the board or just in terms of nursing assistants?
That's across the board. Nothing's been touched. I did not touch any other departments because they do fall within the range of what's being paid at every other county. It's only the beginning base pay for nursing that is so low, the LNAs that's so low compared to other departments. So, I mean, I'm willing to, I know there was talk about dropping it, but I did not recalculate what that percentage would be because I broke it out as those being the lowest getting the highest increase. The problem is that there's big turnover because the minute somebody offers 50 cents more, they'll be heading out the door to the 50 cents more and stuff. So that's all I can say.
I just felt that they were very underpaid
Sorry?
The commissioners felt they were very underpaid for the LMA.
On the other hand, if you're looking at increasing it $1, I would hope that it would not bump up others in different categories.
I'm only proposing for the nursing staff. I know there's concern that housekeepers may come and dietary people may say, well, if they're getting the increased cost, we should too. But there is a great difference between them in the amount of training, the licensure. They have to take vital signs. They're feeding people. There's a lot bigger range of work that an LNA does versus, not that I don't love them and they're not important to this whole building and they're just as important, but I can have high schoolers come into the cafeteria and get $10 to wash dishes and go back to school every day. These guys are working, you know, much more in depth than what our base pay is across the entire pay scale. I have not given a pay raise to anybody at the 90-day probationary period. It used to be 6 months and it got renegotiated to 90 days. I was told by my predecessor that wasn't to occur here, so nobody I've hired in a year has gotten a 3-month raise up. If we wanted to do something so that I agree, I would not want to give people money that haven't proved themselves, that the increase comes after the 3-month probationary period to make sure that they're going to work out for us. That's not a problem on doing the increase that I want to do. But I do have 18 individuals that have been hired here for almost a year now that are working between 10 and 10.50 an hour. Over a year, some of them, because they haven't gotten any negotiated raises because they weren't given a 3-month probationary raise and they weren't here for the negotiated contract raises.
Chairman, are you ready, are you near turn to a motion, or I'll just excuse myself? Not that I have a motion.
Well, you certainly present interesting I guess the answer to your question, I would hope to be able to entertain a motion in 10 minutes or less.
Mr. Chair?
Well, we could entertain a motion now, but to come to a vote in 10 minutes or less about what we're going to do. Oops, that's why it's not turning on. Turn it down. So, yeah, I gotta roll. Yes, sir.
I don't know, but I would imagine that each of us is uncomfortable with the idea of raising it to $11 as a base salary. So the question is, for me, where should that be? Even though in terms of comparison with other county facilities, I think we also need to look at our regional and our cost of living issues here. I agree that you want to have some benefit for nursing assistants so that you can make the argument that they're more trained and that they have more responsibility, and that you may want to differentiate them in some way from dietary and housekeeping. I'm wondering if we were to say you start at whatever the starting is, if it's $10, it's $10. And if you were to go to, I don't know, can you go to $10.50 after a probationary period and $10.75 after 6 months, and then move your changes from there, or something like that? I don't want to propose it because I think we need to talk about it.
Well, I think just from my little comment on that, I think that is more reasonable than just raising all the base rates, because we want to try to, I think, motivate people for performance. So to that end, I think that makes a lot more sense. But for the new employees, keep it at $10 and then they can, okay. The question is how do we adjust this current budget to reflect something of that nature for the new employees? Be one thing, and then the next question is, are we going to approve the additional hours of 40 hours per week?
Right, one new position, as I recall.
Right.
And then there's the piece of bonus. If I could, was the idea of bonus to say, you know, maybe make some salary adjustment or base adjustment, but that you would keep a piece of this budget then to offer on an annual basis to incentivize?
Okay, I think in the discussion that I'd had with the representative, we talked about merit pay and after review periods, giving the director of that department the opportunity to raise rates where necessary, instead of using increases as merit pay was to be as a bonus, and that the bonus could continue on year after year. Was that representative's position? Whether that's correct or not, I don't know. I've been in agreement with what you just put out there, which is allowing after a review period, starting everyone at the 10, and they know that if they do a good job after 3 months or whatever, and they're worth keeping, that they have the director has the availability of raising, and I would support that. Where that falls into, where that number should be in the budget, I don't know, but I would prefer to move in that direction.
Chairman, would a bonus that's given at the end of 6 months be an incentive for people to stay? Would you add it up, and if they make the 6-month thing, they collect their bonus at the end of the 6 months or the end of the year? So they may have a pot of getting $2,000 or something, $500 if that's by staying a year.
You know, once again, that would be, I think, a blend of what we can do with the current contract. I mean, we can do anything if we do with the sidebar, but you know, the current contract does allow for is it the 6-month review? There's a certain
90 days.
90 days.
It used to be 6
so
months. It's 90 days.
So the current contract does allow for a 90-day review. So that is something that we can do without doing anything with the contracts. Say, okay, well, we're going to start people at the $10 an hour, 90-day review for those folks. After 90 days, they would receive a certain bonus to help bring their wage up during that probationary period.
Is that a bonus after 90 days, or is it an increase?
Calculated increased wage.
Increase in wage.
Right.
Right, yeah. The objective here is like just without having to mess around with the contract, then we could do something like that where we don't raise the base pay and we don't do all this, but we do institute the 90-day increase, okay, for new employees and for whomever. I mean, it's not part, you know, they may already be hired. You probably could do it for anyone who's been here for maybe even a little more than 90 days, as long as it's within your budget, if it's their 90-day increase. But as far as bonusing it out, that seems to be something that we might need to look at the contracts, like separating it out.
Future time.
Right. But what we do here is authorize
Money.
Appropriate money. So what it really comes down to is if we're not going to authorize the 2,000 hours, we can remove that. And then we can get an idea of that's 40 FTE per week of LNA.
40 hours?
I think it's 22 hours.
Actually, what that was we're increasing from 18 hours to 22 hours of an M&A position.
So only 4 hours?
No, increasing it 22 hours to make it from an 18-hour position to a 40-hour position.
All right, so
So it will be a 40-hour position, but you're only increasing by 22 hours. It was an 18-hour position because it's specialized. It's very difficult to find a person to do an M&A job for 18 hours.
I got you. So that is really not the LNAs, that's really the MNAs.
Correct.
I must have missed a letter somewhere along the line. So, okay, so that's where we're at there. And there must have been some realignment.
There's some adjustment
There
between
was,
hours
I
in
had
nursing
taken-
and M&A. Less
Yeah.
hours in nursing and more hours in M&A.
If we take away the increase in raises for LNAs, you would see that that line's dropped down by almost 2 because I moved them up into the M&A position where they belonged. They do more M&A work than they do LNA work, and their pay scale was more towards the M&A that they are.
Okay.
If I could, you had an opportunity to hire someone for 18 hours at that M&A position. You weren't able to fill that position because you couldn't find someone.
Correct.
That they wanted to be a full-time. Is there an in-between point there that 30 hours is more palatable, or you're going to have to go to full-time person?
It's going to be ending up a full-time because it's specialized. They have to take extra training. They're passing medications to residents. It's not something that you can, it's very hard for them to work between 2 facilities to do an M&A
Okay,
job.
I understand.
So currently we have, this $396,000 must be for more than one person. So how many are there? Am I on that? M&A, oh wait, that's medical. What, am I looking at the wrong line? M&A medical nursing assistant, 396,000.
It says 10.8 FTEs. 10.8 FTEs. Figured into that, as well as because I've got people in there already, is their 40% increase this year.
Right.
On top of that.
Okay, but I guess my point is that this is more than one person consuming this $396,000.
Correct. About 10 of them, 10.8.
I want that position.
Yeah, it's like,
It's 10.8 FTE.
so what we're increasing is, there's one person in there that's 18 hours a week?
That hasn't been filled. What it is right now my M&As for a day shift, which we have 2. Are responsible for 50 residents a day.
Okay, so what's going on is that we are increasing 22 hours to M&A.
No, we're 22 hours to an M&A to make it a 40-hour position.
And we're taking away LNA hours?
I realigned LNA hours, so yes, there are less LNA hours in there because I had M&As that were in there.
Okay.
So if we took away the raise, I think the confusion is because we calculated the LNA increase into my LNA line. If we take away the increase, you'll see that that LNA line has dropped and the M&A line went up because I realigned some LNAs that are actually M&As into the LNA line.
This $2.1 million figure is wrong.
No,
That's all.
it's all M&As. What happened before was they had some of my M&As in an LNA line, even though all they did was work as M&As. So we put them back up in the M&A where they belong.
Everyone's where they're supposed to be.
So if you take that and look at it without the 67,000 raise and the 61,000 that I put in there for LNA raises, plus the 40 cents contractual raise, you would see that the LNA line dropped in relationship, except for one position for an M&A.
And the charge nurse dollars went down, by some $16,000.
Yes.
Anticipating that M&A position as well.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
If we were to propose that after the 3-month probation, the base salary went to $10.50 or the hourly went to $10.50, and those people were here they're not going to get the contractual raise until they've been here for a year, is that correct?
If you're hired in February, you will not get the contractual raise in April because your probationary period hasn't been up.
Got it.
If you were hired in November and you're here in April, you will get that contractual raise, you'll get it. That person hired in February will not see another contractual raise until the following April. So if you were hired February of 2013, as of April 2013, you will not get a contractual raise, negotiated contractual raise. As of April 1st, 2014, you will get one.
Right.
But
So
in
it's just
between
those
time,
3
you get
months.
nothing, yes.
February, March, April.
So that's the number of employees that have been in affected, that's why I was raising them a little differently.
So you can't hire anybody in February, March, or April?
I know, they all have to be hired ahead of time. But that puts them behind, which creates a big disparity when you're looking at beginning people versus somebody that's been here for 8 or 9 years.
But even with this, if it were a 50% increase, for those who are able to access the contractual increase, they would be making $10.90 an hour. Okay. So I think my proposal, Mr. Chair, is that we keep the $10 an hour base pay as it is, and increase after a 90-day probationary period to $10.50 an hour as a separate motion, and then we can deal with the other position piece or any other questions there might be.
Okay. Well, I second the motion. I don't know how, how that translates into money on the LNA line.
How many LNAs are we talking about in this line?
18.
18?
Oh, wait a minute, in what line?
In the LNA salary line.
But we really have to break that up into hours.
It's 59, isn't it?
Yes.
It's 59.
Okay.
But the difficulty comes in that the contract is very specific that no one starting new can earn anything more than what somebody has already been here and works. So I have 18 people that could fall into that. They would now be earning less than what people starting new.
How would that be?
Huh?
The people starting new are going to start at $10 an hour.
But then they're going to get 50 cents.
But they never got
increments.
any increase unless I automatically give them the 50% probationary.
We would need to treat all those existing people as having been here 90 days.
Correct.
As a head.
And some of them, and my point, the point I'm trying to make is that the people who might fall into that, they're still making $10 an hour category, would be eligible for a review.
Right.
They'd be eligible for it. It may not necessarily be granted. Okay?
It's discretionary.
It's discretionary. So I don't believe that we would fall into, I think we might run into some situations if they aren't granted that 90-day review.
Well, they're well beyond their 90-day review. Some of them are beyond their annual review. They've just never gotten a pay increase. So therefore, someone starting new that got their probationary increase would be earning could possibly be earning more than someone that's been here for a year or two.
Correct, and the point I'm making is I would find it fairly likely and reasonable that even though someone has been here for 6 months, that they would still be eligible to receive their 90-day review. You don't have to receive your 90-day review at the stroke of the 90th day.
Right.
So then you could make up for any situations of that based on that ability, is what I'm trying to say. They've been here for a year, and for some reason now they're making less, but you feel they deserve more, then you can grant them that. But nonetheless, and within the framework of the contract, it is possible to, that someone could get the increase in their review. Some people might not get their increase in review. So that...
Okay, but that's not my proposal, because we're talking about wanting to consider raising the base pay. And so I'm talking about raising the base pay. I'm saying for anybody who's here over 90 days who passes muster, their base rate will increase to $10.50. That would not be an incentive. It would be a part of your hiring parameters. If you are here 3 months and you're successful, your rate will increase to $10.50. Are there other incentive possibilities relative to pay or none?
So come April 1st, there'll be the negotiated 40-cent increase for those that who have completed their probationary period.
Right. So there is no, and then the thing that Representative Umberg is talking about could be in addition to that.
Correct.
Well, I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name. Becky. I believe what Becky has asked is that we consider raising our base rate. And so my proposal is that we raise our base rate, but only after the probationary period, to make it more competitive and to make the distinction between nursing and other departments. So that's my proposal.
Okay.
If there's an incentive piece in there, that's not in my proposal.
Okay, well, let me just kind of review what I thought you said. You said that we keep the starting pay the same, $10 an hour.
Yeah.
And then, after 3 months, they had the ability to receive a, what is it officially in the contract called?
Well, is it the review increase, a scheduled increase? I mean, we could have increases at 90 days. We have not been doing that. But
Right.
we do have the provision for making another pay review at 90 days.
Right.
Which in this case, we're indexing to be not more than 50 cents an hour.
Right. So that's what I'm trying to say too. Now, they may, within the contract, within the structure of the contract, they may opt out to not give this person the 50 cents an hour if they wish. Now, I would imagine that probably 98.9% of the time it's going to happen, but they would still have the ability to say no for someone they may not wish to give it to.
Okay.
See what I mean? So it does incentivize.
I do.
Okay, so I was trying to structure what you said into the contract.
Got it.
See, so they have that ability, and they would still have the ability to do a 90-day review, even though the person might have been here for 180 days, they can still do that in order to make sure that everyone's up to that 1050.
Understood.
That's my... So the question still comes down to, what does that translate into dollars that we would remove from the LNA line? Because it seems to me like all the money that I thought, which wasn't computing that $100,000, has nothing to do with the additional, there's not 40 hours, it's really additional 22 hours, and that's all flowed down to the M&A line. Okay? So...
It's difficult to calculate it here.
So where...
You could, Becky had a cost of $61,867 for these step raises, step increases. If we take that out, I think she'd still be able to work within her budget because there's vacant positions. So to give those people the 50-cent increase at the 90 days for right now.
I think roughly you're talking, that $60,000 was predicated on $1 an hour increase.
Well, $1.
If we're talking 50%, it's going to be roughly half that.
Half that.
So 30,000. Okay.
Which is much more manageable.
And that works in the 40 cents an hour, that would be
That's
coming up?
totally separate.
That's totally separate.
That's totally separate.
That is separate.
No, the 60 cents an hour was for...
The 60,000. So this 30,000 now would be to bring us into a competitive base rate,
Correct.
even though it would be implemented over after a 90-day period.
So, yeah, so for nursing, the bottom line, if you added 30,000 in, took out the 61 out of my budget and put in 30, bottom line would be 116,479 increase overall for all your nursing positions. That includes having the new position in there and everything.
The additional 22 hours.
Additional, yes.
Okay. But that additional nursing position, that's already reflected in this number for the M&A, 396,750, right?
Right, but that's what I'm saying, but the bottom line increase for the whole department.
Right, okay, so, but from this line, salary LNAs are the 2,103,455 number. We would
be taking out 31.
So we would take $31,000 out in that,
31,000
from that particular line.
Yes.
So 1,972.
45? 455?
455, yeah.
Okay. All right, do you hear a motion in a second?
We did it.
Yeah, you already did it. Only understand, it's $10 base pay, increase to $10.50 after 90-day probationary review.
That was my motion.
Okay.
Yep.
We're voting. Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, so that passes. So we're going to, so the line is reduced to that number based on that is the idealism behind it.
And it's also based on if the union agrees with that, I do believe, because their contract doesn't specifically say they have a pay increase after 90 days. I'll double check that. but
Okay,
we may have
well,
to do
we'll
a
look into
sidebar
that.
for
Or it could be in the
From
form of
previous
a
meetings, we
sidebar.
felt that that was something that was possible, that just was not being implemented for cost savings.
And I would make a motion to accept the increase in the M&A hours from 18 to 40 as reflected in the budget. Or do we need to have that?
We don't really need to do that, it's already on there.
All right.
I mean,
I shut up.
okay. All right, so now that, I think that handles the questions I had from the expense side. I'm just kind of do that one last campfire check of my,
Mr. Chairman, I have a question.
yes, Representative Nelson.
What's the issue that we cannot get updated information? Is this a one-person operation? It just seems in this day and age with computers and everything, we should have this information from the previous year, January 15th, and we should have updated information in a week or two. It just, who's in charge of this person that does this?
Right, that would be Kathy Geary, and I think, you know,
Is it-
I'm sure she must have that information
Is the
available.
commissioners over her or something?
Yes, I mean, I can't imagine that that's not available, it should be available almost by now.
We didn't have an answer.
Go ahead, Paul.
We don't, she doesn't close out 2000, we don't stop cutting checks on the previous year until at least the third week in January.
Right.
So there's no way you're gonna have actual year-end figures before that anyway, and then there's always journal entries that are done. So, I mean, I don't know about the journal entries, but as far as that, we cut checks 3 weeks into the new year for the previous year.
Right.
So,
So I guess we would like to see those updated numbers. If you could have something that, that's in this form, that has, you know, instead of this line being to November 30th, it's through January
yeah,
31st.
I can check with her, like I said,
That's what I was hoping, or I was thinking that we were going to get today.
Me too.
And I apologize if I wasn't clear on that, or who was supposed to make sure that would happen. I know I wouldn't have assigned it to myself, because that would have been futile. But, so that we would need to see, and that is agreement, those numbers should be now available. However, from the numbers that they comprised, that they gave us these numbers based on what they had sent over. So we're really have a lot of confidence that the actual 2012 number from this sheet, as far as the overalls, are up to date. But yeah, it would be nice to see what the exact ones were. So if you could ask her to do that and to email it to all of us, so then we have it, and then maybe have some copies made up for, you know, perhaps a final subcommittee meeting if we need it. But we may not.
Well, I'm not sure we do. I'm sorry, I've got another meeting to go to.
All right, well, can we at least make a vote on the total expenses on the enterprise funds? Okay, and you probably don't have something like that put together as the total, right, for the total number?
well, not
No,
that we've changed anything, right?
Right.
But I will email
But based
all of
on
you.
Reflecting the changes.
reflecting the changes we made today, you know, we will be receiving that total number, you know, in the revised budget. Will you be able to provide us with that, the line by line, a revised budget? But pending that, because it's going to have all those other social, you know, but pending that, were there any other adjustments that we had on the expense side that we were looking for?
I did not, so I would move your statement.
Okay, so moved that, you know, pending, you know, maybe a final vote, it's some quick moment at some moment in the future, maybe not necessarily a subcommittee meeting, but just, you know, to look at the final numbers and just to vote on our acceptance of those numbers being what we expected them to be. Then
Chairman, can I just make a comment? I feel uncomfortable going down that route unless we have another member here. We're only having 3 people here. We're agreeing to expenditures without all the numbers in front of us. And I think there should be more than 3 of us here.
I agree with that, but two things. We have a quorum still. Okay, so we have the necessary number. And you need to remember that this, what we're voting on, is our recommendation to the body, to all of us. This is not the end. You know, this is just, we're trying to be able to vote on a recommendation.
This is not the end.
Yeah. Do you see what I'm saying? Like this is.
I understand now, right.
And that we will meet again, even if it's just to have a review of the numbers with everyone present. You know.
Well, we can't change it because we voted to accept it.
I don't know that the motion is necessary because we will meet again, and
okay.
I don't even know at that point.
All right, the motion may be moot. It is. I don't disagree. It's maybe what they call a feel-good motion. Is that we're all. But we don't have any other questions. You got everybody's looked at it.
Totally. Just
okay. So at least on the expense side, we feel good. We'd like to have those numbers emailed to us, so then our next meeting can be fairly expeditious.
So I assume that's been withdrawn?
Yes.
Motion
Yeah.
and second?
Yeah.
And if we could meet maybe a half an hour before the full delegation meeting, maybe we could wrap it up.
That's my thought.
Good.
That's what I meant by we'll just meet right before the delegation meeting and try to make sure that we don't have any questions. But
So we're talking
when we see these numbers, if we're all going woo, we may have another meeting.
I have a delegation meeting at 9. Is that?
Yeah, so we'd meet like at 8:30 on, I think, was that the 22nd?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'd meet at 8:30 on the 22nd.
We're meeting here. Because you're going to have people walking in the delegation.
Sure, that makes sense. Let's do it here.
Aha, then we can walk over. That works.
All right. Were you able to come up with revenue, any revenue, specific revenue increases?
Kathy wasn't willing to commit to me that she has any knowledge of what it's disproportionate share money from the state.
Right. Well, the money that we were looking for from the pro share money in increase on the revenues was not that money. We were supposed to be not really touching that money. We were looking at the revenues from the monies that we had a little better feel for. I.e. private pay, Medicaid, but not from the pro share.
The pro share is the biggest chunk of that, but we can get more specific about the other sources of income. I didn't do that for this meeting, but I can do that and forward that to you.
Okay. All right. Well, for instance, I guess like what we're looking at for the. Oh, geez, I can't seem to come up with it now. Trash allowances. Why do I feel like I'm missing a page? Because I am missing a page. There it is.
Just lack of quorum, can I suggest that we adjourn and you can ask him privately, because then we
Yes.
don't have a quorum present.
There you go. That sounds good. Let's go ahead and adjourn.